Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Clinic Gym Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Satterlee, and it's my pleasure today to be joined by the man, Brett Jones. How are you, Brett?
Fantastic, Josh. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Now, Brett, for those, so I don't know if you know this, Brett, but there is a very, how would I say it? In chiropractic, we say straight, but a very dogmatic chiropractor who believes that the adjustment will release the innate qualities within us. And his name is also Brett Jones. Uh, Although he's 25 years old and wears a fedora everywhere. But for those who can only hear you and not see you, the fact that you're not wearing a fedora, give us an idea who you are and what you do so they can delineate easily.
Okay, so to give you the long story of me in condensed form, I have a Bachelor of Science in Sports Medicine, Master's in Rehabilitative Sciences, certified athletic trainer, certified
PhD from the School of Hard Knocks.
That too, CSCS through the NSCA. I am the Director of Education for Strong First School of Strength, where we teach kettlebell, barbell, and body weight with a strength focus. I am a advisory board member and presenter teacher for functional movement systems, and I've worked with Gray and FMS for over 12 years now. I've worked with Pavel for over 16 years now, and been quite a journey.
For those who are gone to Perform Better or any of that, I'll describe it as this: if you ever see a picture of Gray Cook working with another person on the front of a DVD cover, it's most likely Brett.
It probably is. We had a tremendous run. I had worked with Gray in his clinic and in my training room at Hargrave Military Academy in Chatham, Virginia, for 2 years. This was back 95 to 97. So we're going back a few years into the history. But
is that how you originally met?
It is. It is. So
the only two men to own kettlebells in Chatham, Virginia, happen to,
Actually, this is before kettlebells. This is
okay.
I bought my first kettlebell, and Pavel started selling them and teaching workshops in 2001.
Okay.
I bought my kettlebell in the end of 2001, and then took the second ever kettlebell cert that he taught in the States in February of 2002.
Wow.
So I had worked with, just had come out of being an athletic trainer and was running a hospital fitness center. So for 5 years, I ran a hospital fitness center in Clarion, PA. And during that time, 2002, got certified and ended up putting out a Kettlebell Basics for Personal Trainers and Strength Coaches DVD.
Sure, wasn't a VHS back then or Betamax?
We had just come out of Betamax, and it was the new thing was DVD. So we put out this DVD, and Gray got it. And so somewhere around in 2005, I get a call from Gray, and he's like, where's the fanny pack? Because as athletic trainers, you wear a fanny.
Sure, it's required.
It's mandatory. And really interested in what you're doing with the kettlebells. Let's talk. And so that led to me getting on board with FMS as a presenter, and also three of the Secrets of DVD series are Gray and I, and that led to the development of the Level 2, FMS Level 2 materials. And so our collaboration, 05, 06, really led to a lot. We're still unpacking the material that we put together at that time. So
yeah,
been tremendous. And without having met Gray in 95, 97 and gotten started in kind of a different mindset, because Gray is good for asking those questions and changing mindsets, and then getting into fitness and kettlebells. And it just kind of, the decisions you make, and you just never know, because I left Hargrave and Chatham in 97. I kind of kept in touch and then lost touch. And then all of this stuff happened because of two of my mentors. So
wow, interesting. Now, just out of curiosity, how did you first hear about Pavel?
So a friend, somebody that worked with me at this hospital fitness center, came back and he said, you should really check out this Pavel guy. And at that time, Pavel's big book was Power to the People. which was a
Mm-hmm.
very simple deadlift and side press routine,
Mm-hmm.
and had a lot of information in there that was really really profound and heretical at the time, because it was certainly an anti-bodybuilding approach, and was a very he was advocating deadlifting and pressing 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
And that alone, everybody was losing their minds over
Yeah,
the
if you I mean, back in the early 2000s, even late 90s, if you violated the rule of legs were 1 day a week, if you do them, you're going to be
right.
thrown out of most gyms in the world, right?
Well, it was much easier to skip leg day when it was only 1 day a week. You could usually come up with an excuse for that day. So I ended up getting this book and really got into it and was doing my deadlifts. And I've kind of, from a strength perspective, I've been all of the, and I'm doing air quotes for those of you
Mhm.
that can't see the video. I've been all of the guys that you can be within strength and conditioning. I've been the functional training guy, the powerlifting guy, the body weight only guy, the kettlebell only guy. Like I tend to go down rabbit holes, and if I get interested in something, I'll usually do it almost to an extreme. And so I've been all of those guys as over the years. And then when I found Pavel's materials, I really started finding something that allowed me to coalesce a lot of information. And so I had gotten this book, I'm deadlifting, I'm doing my work, and the marketing machine kicked in, and I started hearing about one of his books, Russian Kettlebell Challenge, and kettlebells. And so I got the book, and the true story, I got it, I leafed through it, and I put it in a drawer. And I didn't look at it for X number of weeks or months. And finally, just kind of gnawing in the back of my head, I pulled the book back out, and I'm like, okay, let's try this. And so he had a recommendation for trying some snatches with a dumbbell, and because kettlebells weren't readily available yet. And I hooked up a 50-pound dumbbell and did some dumbbell snatches. And when EMS revived me, I said, I should probably get some training in this. And so went to the second ever cert, and then started teaching with Pavel in April of 2003, and the rest, as they say, is history.
So I remember I was shown a video of Pavel, and I think it was The Power to People, like, I don't know, a DVD that accompanied the book or something. I don't know what it was. All I remember is first is the I'm trying to say this nicely. Um, in the world of fitness, there's always the uniform that the person chooses will tell you. You could easily delineate back then as to what they are into. So if it was like bike shorts and a tank top with massive, like one of those tank tops where you've removed more fabric than you started with, that's obviously bodybuilding DVD.
Mm-hmm.
Or those crazy pants they used to wear, those striped, vertical striped pants bodybuilders wear, like
Oh yeah. Oh
and then
yeah.
and then so anyways, the point I'm trying to make is my brother was showing me the DVD, and I was like, this is different, because he was in pants, but they were more like, sport trousers, I don't know what you would call them, and no shirt, and he was going like, comrade, and he would press the kettlebell, but they had really good microphones that could hear the tendons in his elbow, like sounding like a violin strings, just the crepitus was incredible. And I just was like laughing, like, oh, this is different. Like, nobody ever does this, And
Definitely.
this
And
is at the
he,
time. I mean, I took the CSCS. Do you remember those early training videos that were really, really grainy and horrible and shot with like reel to reel or something?
oh yeah.
And
Oh
so seeing
no.
this like updated thing, and he's using this crazy device called the kettlebell, and like, I just was so mesmerized by the whole thing. Anyways,
So the pants were actually Patagonia hiking pants,
okay.
and I still have 3 or 4 pair down in the closet.
But
And
you're not allowed to wear those with shoes, right? You have to be barefoot. Is that the rule? And
we tend to be
with
a
Pavel?
barefoot group.
Okay.
Unless there's a medical reason you have to wear shoes, we usually recommend you take them off. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's interesting. Barefoot training has gained even more popularity.
Yeah.
We've been doing that for quite a while now.
Right. I
And
always thought the gray was super functional by not wearing shoes, but then I realized when I finally went to visit the barn in Chatham, part of the reason is in that area, only half the people own shoes.
that's
So it's
pretty
really not that
much.
odd.
He fits right in.
Yeah, it's when we bring them to the big city that it's like, oh, what's this dude doing?
Right.
So when was your first like aha moment? I mean, you've been through every bout of different methods of training. You did the body weight stuff, you did the powerlifting, you did all that. But when was your first aha of like, holy crap, these techniques or this kettlebell thing, it's different. It's not just a different handle on a dumbbell, right? Like this shit's way different.
It was, I mean, really from that first experience of trying it with a dumbbell, but then receiving my kettlebell and starting to train with it. I trained for a couple months, went to the February '02 certification, and actually at that time, through a little bit of stretching information from Pavel, opening up my hip, the anterior chain a little bit, and the combination of good hip extension and ballistics with the swings and snatches, I grabbed the rim, jumping for the basketball rim for the first time in my life.
At what age? I mean,
Oh, okay. How old am I
30s?
now? Yeah,
I
was
mean, white dudes usually, if they're going to grab the rim, it's around age 19 to 22, and then it slowly declines. But here you were.
at 32, 31, 32, something
Yeah.
like that.
Wow.
So really just had this massive change. And I was the kid in high school. I didn't play basketball for the safety of others. And that's why they let me wrestle. I did not have any hops, did not have a vertical leap to speak of. And then here I am in my early 30s. And because I'm 47 now. So that works out about right. It really just started unlocking these things that I had previously not been good at.
Yeah.
It has a good bit of there's a unilateral aspect to kettlebell training with the one arm swings, one arm presses, front squats on one side. Especially, you buy your first kettlebell, you've only got one, so everything's unilateral and stuff like that. So yeah, it was right away.
Wow. And uh, did your physique change as well? I mean, because like that's not the point, but when you're working, if people are working with clients and whatnot, there are a lot of people that I've seen the development of a different, I would say a more aggressive physique by integrating kettlebells versus powerlifting. Powerlifting makes you big, like just big, like
Mm-hmm.
places that you don't necessarily want to be big, like, you're, it gives you a second, possibly third chin sometimes. And, like,
Pants don't fit well
yeah,
because of the thighs and the butt and stuff
right.
like that. Oh yeah, it's all over the place. I for quite a few years I maintained right around 175 sort of body weight, and my body didn't change a lot.
Okay.
I've never had a great diet, so I've never been really lean. So I was, right around the 175 area for a while. And then when I really started powerlifting, I really embraced the powerlifting motto of there's not a sticking point you can't eat your way through, and ended up around 200 pounds by the time I was done. But I had a 518 squat, 573 deadlift in competition, and certainly got strong and thickened my physique.
Yep.
But I could probably show you a picture of me as a kid from about 10 years old, and you'd look at the body on that 10-year-old and go, that's Brett. So
All right.
I'm kind of, as a powerlifting coach once told me, Brett, you're not built to do anything. So I've kind of looked the same for a
That's
lot of
awesome.
years.
Not tall enough for basketball, not short enough for powerlifting, not wide enough for offensive line. Like,
I'm a generalist.
you're a general purpose kind of guy, right?
Exactly.
And so when you started, like, at your highest point, your peak physique of kettlebell training, were you still 200? Were you down to 170? Like, what?
So powerlifting didn't happen until, call it 2006, 2007. So between
Okay.
late 2001 to 2005, 2006, it was predominantly basically kettlebell training and some body weight training.
Oh, so the kettlebell was your key into powerlifting.
It was.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the other way around. Like, you were a recovering powerlifter.
Well,
Your wife was just like, I'm sick of cooking and washing these clothes with horrible BO. Like,
Well, so that, yes, kettlebells came first.
okay.
Had dabbled in some barbell work over the years, obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
but nothing that I would consider real powerlifting, or I've never done Olympic lifting.
Was it because of that ballistic strength? Like you said, you could dunk or you could touch the rim for the first time in your life, but I mean, that's an expression of power, right? That's not
Mm.
strength.
You have to be strong enough to express your power.
Sure.
So strength still sets the base.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing that we've found in Pavel's new book, which will be coming up soon, will give a lot of information on this. The ballistic and quick lifts have this really interesting ability to bring both up, both
Mm-hmm.
strength and
Sure.
relative and max strength and power. So
Watch a
that,
champion, a chimpanzee swing through a tree, and you'll like that is a incredibly ballistic controlled event, and I don't want to mess with them.
no.
I outweigh them, but I don't want to mess with them.
Oh my gosh, it is amazing the body weight to strength ratio and
Yeah.
what they're capable of. So yeah, kettlebells kind of unlocked a lot of strength and power for me. And when I
Mm-hmm.
started powerlifting, I had peaked my deadlift in 2003. Between 2002 2003, I'd peaked my deadlift at a pretty good level. Actually, had a back injury and then came back to ended up having an L5S1 laminectomy in September of 2003. So I just passed my 15-year anniversary of that. And after that back surgery, I went on to complete the Beast Tamer Challenge within the kettlebell community, which is the 48 kilo bell for a single leg squat, a pull up, and a one arm military press.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my powerlifting happened post back surgery. So 2005 into 2006, 2007, I started getting back into heavier training.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
AAU Nationals, Wild World of Sports in Disney, 2007, 518 deadlift, 570. I'm sorry, 518 squat, 573 deadlift. My bench was not that good, right around 295 or 300. And so kind of peaked, had this buildup of strength, suffered a little bit of an injury, which was a bad squat attempt. And now that I understand what I understand about my hips, it makes perfect sense as to why this happened. And I can talk about that here in a bit, because I've had 8 different surgeries in my life. Only one of them was ever exercise related. So I've had various things happen that have forced me to start and restart my training at different times for different reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and have learned a great deal about training in that time.
You had
So
that third testicle surgically installed and then removed later when you
I
got out of
can
extreme sports.
I can neither confirm nor deny such reports. So the kind of the recovery there and getting back into powerlifting and really becoming obsessed with squatting, that was allowed me. But kettlebell training was always how I rehabbed or came back from the variety of things that I've had happen. And
Yeah.
some of those things are like having appendectomy in 2001.
Yeah.
Had the back surgery in 03. I had a large ventral hernia repair in 2009. So I got a big piece of mesh and little metal tacks in my gut, and surgery for melanoma, and just different things over the years, not really exercise related except for the back. And that was a bad squat attempt and really a back injury that I had suffered in wrestling in high school.
Uh-huh.
Always wondered why the outside of my right foot would go numb when I drove long distances, just kind of thought it
Interesting.
was because I was driving.
Sure.
And so, kind of that's a really convoluted way to answer the question, but the progression there was kind of different. I had been training, then kettlebell training, and then barbell, a little bit of an injury, kettlebell, back to barbell. And so it's nice when people come in to see me, or I work with people in whatever instance, and they're like, oh, I've had a back injury. I'm like, hey, me too. I've got L5S1 laminectomy. I've chewed some of the same dirt that you have, and let's move forward, because
Yeah.
you can
That's
do
interesting.
this.
Because I sustained an injury when I was lifting in college, and then just over time, especially last year, I probably had my worst flare up of it. the bed was too soft. So I was floor ridden for
Mm.
3 straight days, and, like where you're gritting your teeth to go to the bathroom kind of stuff. And finally got a shitload of steroids in me, and then got got an injection, and it helped. But what I've learned is, for me, like, bilateral deadlifts, I'll wake up the next morning and I'll have back pain, like bilateral stance. But if I do, the best I ever feel is like an RFE type exercise. I don't know why that just works for me, but my legs are strong, and I, go for full depth and kind of mobilize my hips as I go down. Like, holy crap, that feels great the next day.
Yep.
And that getting over that hump, I think is, for the people listening, that's a huge thing. If you can have a training program that prevents people come in with back pain to your clinic, if you can put together a strength program that helps them build resiliency and eliminate the sore days of back pain, like, they might always have back pain, but if you can keep it to 5 days out of the, or keep, to 3 days out of the week instead of 5, or, you'll be a hero. People love that stuff.
Well, the body, there's a concept, hormesis, where it's kind of like that little dose of poison. You develop tolerance over time. And
Yeah.
so
I've seen Princess Bride. Huh.
Exactly.
I poisoned both of them.
You've made one of the classic blunders.
Yeah.
So you, and to the point of what you're trying to do here and the message that you're trying to get out, being strong, I know there's a meme, and there's a meme for everything. But, if you think being strong is dangerous, try being weak.
Yeah.
Being weak is dangerous. And there's a lot of different ways that we can talk about that, both from just a confidence and how you interact with people perspective, but also from just a living perspective, like being strong. And I think putting some context to that for folks, being strong doesn't mean being a power lifter. You can go watch ballet, and you're seeing some incredibly strong, dynamic individuals. You can go watch gymnastics. You can go watch martial arts. You can watch tennis. You pick your version of what strong means to you, and cool, be that, go do that. But being inactive and being weak, that will catch up with you. And once you've dug a big enough hole, it can be really hard to get out of. So strong is good. Strong is something that's protective, and you bounce back and recover from your situations much better.
You could say that you want to be strong first.
That's it's a concept. We liked it so much, we made it the name of the company. And
Hair Club for Men. I'm not just a client. I'm the owner too.
I'm the owner. Or I liked it so much, I bought the company.
Yeah.
Remington Razors. That's a throwback to that some of the people on the.
I thought that was Spatula City on UHF. Doesn't he say something like that?
Might have been. I missed that one. But yeah, it's, Medvedev said strength is a master quality. All other physical qualities are dependent upon it. And really that's true. You have to have a base of strength in order to express power. You have strength endurance. It's in the name. You have to have some strength to endure with. And so, setting that quality and understanding that we all come in with our different mileage. You're the folks that are listening to this podcast who are in the clinical and therapeutic world. You've got people coming in that they're there for a reason. They're in pain. They've got an injury. They're having a problem. Finding, just as you have with rear foot elevated work versus bilateral deadlifts, you find the strategies that help you build strength for that individual in a healthy and safe manner. And then you focus on getting them strong. And it does help with whatever situation that you have going on.
So along that path, I'm interested. I mean, so I got out of school in 2006, and so I really started in practice 2007, and about 2008 or 2009, I started noticing that like a lot of people that I respected or seemed to have a leg up on society had these strange letters after their name, which was CKFMS, right? Like it was five, we're like the kings of 3-letter designations, like FSG, FMS,
Yeah.
and then the SFMA came out and it's like, well, it's 4 letters. Okay. Well, it has to be pretty good, and then there's 5 letters, but it's like 8-minute abs, you can't get a great workout in 7 minutes, like, or what is it? 6-minute abs. 6 minutes. You can't get a good workout in 6 minutes. No, it's 7-minute abs.
Impossible.
Yeah. The
So
5 letters, I was like, oh, this has to be crazy, because not only 5 letters, there's also a hyphen in there, and it's just, what are these crazy people doing? But it was also like the very seed in my mind of this idea of the blended strength and clinical model, and this how do I say it? It was a rogue idea for a clinician at that time to advocate a ridiculous amount of strength. Like, that idea did not exist out there. And it was like, well, yeah, you can be, have rotator cuff strength, or your hip flexors can be, okay, you can use a TheraBand. That's okay. And then I heard people going, no, grab the heaviest freaking thing you can right at the edge of your ability and move it. And I'm like, oh man, you're like, I'm going to lose my license if I listen to you. Like,
well, and it was, at that time we started talking about things in reference to the upper body. We were talking about doing get-ups and presses for healthy shoulders, activating your grip, learning how to use your lat within your press. And people were like, oh, lat's not a pressing muscle. The heck it isn't, when you start looking at the pattern. And so we were advocating really, and, starting back in 2002 and understanding how to use your breath for both strength and for flexibility or relaxation, how to really use your body as a more integrated unit. How do you feed forward your tension and use the irradiation to be stronger and safer in what you do? And that's, one of our principles within Strong First, is that we feel safety is part of proper execution. It's not something we hope for. We feel that properly executing these moves, implementing these principles and techniques, we think safety is part of that proper performance. And then from a lower body perspective, like Pavel was advocating single leg squats and deadlifts and swings and, all of these things. And, people at the time where it was very, I would say, different than what people were used to.
And so when you guys started going down that path, just out of curiosity, were you seeing more clinicians that were like, oh, thank God you're saying something I've always wished was true, but I was scared to say? Or were you seeing more trainers that were like, I'm running into a ton of people with the pain, or, the limiter is something else. Like, I need to understand the other side of the coin. Like, what were you seeing were the groups of people and the response?
I'm going to go all around the horn on this, because Pavel, one of the things that drew Gray to Pavel and ended up merging my two worlds of kettlebells and strength and Gray and FMS, was the book The Naked Warrior. And in the book The Naked Warrior, what Pavel was advocating was the ability to do a one-arm push-up on each side and the ability to do a single leg squat on each side. And Gray looked at this and he's like, brilliant, symmetry of strength. Like, make sure you can do what you can do on one side on the other side. And
it also inherently almost screens out all possible dysfunction that could exist, right? I mean, you have to be operating a pretty high level to pull that off.
You're going to have lower body wise, you're going to have good motor control and mobility through the lower extremities. You're going to be able to tie yourself together and produce great strength through your upper extremities. Do that equally on both sides in all quadrants. So that was one of the first things. And in Pavel's mind, like, everybody's spending a half hour, 2 or 3 days a week stretching, right? Like, mobility work is just something, like, he just assumes everybody can, or previously assumed that everybody would move well and of course be able to access these things. And where we had to go was we used to spend a lot of time at certs, at our kettlebell workshops, getting people to be able to access a full deep squat, not the FMS overhead deep squat, just the ability to kind of access a full deep squat. We used to spend a lot of time. Now we spend almost no time. And I actually, and this may be just my grand vision of myself and what we've done, but I think we are to credit for accessing these, emphasis on these larger ranges of motion, the ability to control the full range. And
I
then
mean, 100%. Like anecdotally, I'll tell you, like if you go into, I remember going to a gym when I was in college, and it was rare to see the hip joint at or below the knees. And now, if you see anybody, even the old guys that have been lifting the same way for 100 years, if they're not getting to that parallel or whatever you want to call that below, it's strange. And I saw it the other day, like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, holy shit. Like it just brought back memories of like, oh yeah, everybody used to do that, you know, like hell, when I did the bigger, faster, stronger in high school, like you never got your butt too low. Like, no, just go higher, but add more weight. Like that's way better, you know?
Yeah, it's so I think we've had some impact, and I think it's been positive, and so Gray comes on the scene and says, here's a way to set this baseline and make sure that people are moving well, and we have this great strength tool and techniques, and we can really help people get through some of these barriers, and that's how CKFMS came about, and that actually I'm getting ready to teach it here in a couple of weeks. It's we call it foundational strength now, and no longer requires somebody to be kettlebell certified to take it. We've kind of decreased some of that requirement. And so now people can come in and really hear what it's like to have the strength message from Strong First, but also the movement message from FMS. And Gray's background and perspective has always been in the direction of strength. He's known for the FMS and corrective exercise, but his goal is get to strong.
I mean, the FMS is essentially a pre-test, right? Of can I train you full go, right? Like, are you just good enough? Are you adequate enough for me to actually train you at a level where you're going to make some change?
So principle number one, move well, move often. And if you peel back the layers on that just a little bit, what we're saying is move well enough to be able to adapt to the stresses you're going to be placed under. And it's a great way to look at setting that baseline. Move well enough to be able to adapt to the stresses I'm going to place you under, because I'm going to put you under stress. Mm-hmm. You come see me for a training session. I'm teaching you kettlebells. I'm going to put you under stress. Do you have the baseline that allows you to adapt in a positive manner to that? And so for the clinicians that are listening, it's more of an exit interview. Okay, you've done your treatments, they're out of pain, or everything's at an acceptable level. They're going to go back to their lives and train anyway. How do you give them the best direction for whether they're going back to their fitness routine or whatever it is? How do you direct them? How do you see how that pain and the situation they just came out of, how did that impact their movement? Maybe something that used to be really good, like their leg raise, now isn't, because they're coming out of a back pain situation or an ankle situation or whatever the case may be. So it really gives this great footing for where you're going to program and direct and make sure that people can adapt in a positive fashion to the stress that they're placed under.
Yeah. And so you guys were tip of the spear of that idea, right? I mean, to Gray, that was just everybody should know this. And you said Pavel came in with the idea of like, you got to be mobile enough to do this, right? I mean, you got to, so let me train you. But then the general population was not like that. Hey, we'll be right back with our interview, but real quick, I wanted to make sure that you know about our Accelerator program and our Accelerator Lite program. Both of those lay out the 42 steps it takes to start a hybrid facility, set up your business model, perform sales training with your staff, and also cover yourself in case of any issue. We have those programs available at our website, clinicgymhybrid.com. Again, that's clinicgymhybrid.com. The full Accelerator program includes building your fitness website, your logo, and a bunch of other time with me. If you're like, hey, I don't want the time, I just want to get up and going, then you may be interested in the Accelerator Lite program, which you can check out, both of which include the 42 high-impact lessons to get up and going. And I hope you take me up on that. All right, we'll get right back to our interview now. Thanks a lot. 2 questions. First, when Pavel and Gray got together to talk about this, how many days did that initial conversation last? And I mean, like, I could picture them sitting in a bar. I know how Gray asks questions and thinks about stuff. And when he had a brain like Pavel's across him, there's no way he was leaving that conversation, right? So did you close down a bar, reopen it, close it down again, and never actually leave? Like,
this would have been more like at the beach in Santa Monica. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously, it was actually a quicker conversation than you would think because they agreed on a lot.
Okay.
And so it was kind of just this great meeting of the minds and ideas. But it was like, I think these two things together will be good. They both agreed on it, and then Gray and I worked up the curriculum and ideas, and we drew ideas from people like Dr. Mark Chang and at the time Jeff O'Connor and other people that were in the community, and we were able to pull together some really good information on getting people moving better. And a couple things to add in here, because beyond the exercise, which maybe we spend couple hours a week doing, there's this whole other life thing that's happening. And so we understand, both FMS and from a Strong First perspective, that your nutrition, which includes your hydration and your food and all of that stuff, your stress, just work, life, whatever stress, the mechanical reality of your body, the biological reality of your body, your breathing, your stress, all of these things play a part, and your programming. So you have to look at life and how that is impacting the organism. And now you have this environment that you're placing this organism in, and part of that environment is your programming. I was asked on a podcast what my favorite recovery strategies were. I think it's very interesting that as an industry, one of the most popular things right now is recovery strategies. Well, my answer was proper programming, because if I have programmed myself properly, I should be recovering from my training. If you're always trying to figure out how to recover better from your training, you need to look at your program, because you're just overdoing it. You're trying to do too much in just the broadest strokes that I can put that out there in. So I think that health, the health part of health and fitness needs to be reemphasized.
Oh, yeah, that part.
That part, the thing that nobody wants to talk about. Your training should and your lifestyle should facilitate you being healthy. And if you're in pain and you're having problems, you're not healthy. And so taking a step back, readjusting the programming is a big deal. And so we've had to do that within the Strong First community and within all strength and conditioning communities. I think if you're constantly trying to find a way to recover from your training, just change your training.
Nah, man, you got to buy some other external, electric stim device with a, Theragun and go into some cryo chambers 3 times a day.
Yeah, it's and hey, I enjoy hopping in a sauna and having a nice sweat. I enjoy laying down, getting legs up wall and doing some recovery poses and breathing and stuff. All that is good stuff. But if you're always trying to figure out how to recover, I'm going to argue there's a lifestyle and or programming issue that's making recovery more difficult for you. So change it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's one of the funny things about the kettlebell is it simplified a lot of the thoughts I had about training, because it's like, just grab this heavy thing and then control that, rather than I need this machine, obviously, or device, or blah, blah. Like there's so many, I don't know what you want to say, there's so many toys you can play with, but they're like that. They're toys. They lose their luster after a while because the techniques developed around them, and you'll see, like, right now there's some popular things there are a lot of popular things that I think they're great, but people get a quick interest in them and then it fades off. And it's really the principles behind them. And, if we remove all these issues, like you're saying, like, well, if you're not recovering, like, start at that first principle. Why? It's like, if you're overtrained, there's not enough stuff in the world that'll help you get over that, or if you're not eating correctly, or if you're not hydrated, like, go to those first principle problems, right? I don't know if you've read that book about Elon Musk. This woman did a biography of him, and he always goes back to the first principle problem. Like, are there batteries that last this long? Yes. Are there cars that can drive with it electrically? Yes. Then we can make a car that would last this long. Well, no, you can't. Why not? Well, because nobody has. It's like, all right, that's not a reason. Like, go back. Can we get a battery that will last this long? Yes. Then all we need to do is focus on making that battery, and the rest of the stuff will work out. And it's just like, huh. And if you just strip it away, it's crazy how that works, which is essentially like everything about the functional movement system, right? Is strip it away to like, can you move? No. Well, there's the problem.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. Well,
Yeah,
no. Like, I want to figure out how to, get a full depth squat with a low bar. It's like, it's not going to happen if your ankle doesn't move. Like, nobody, Captain Kirk in ski boots cannot get a full depth squat, like, period.
It's interesting because I think that we tend to fall or use car analogies pretty often, and so there's a few things that people will say, and if they just you should just exercise. You do this, and the movement thing will work itself out. Well, the next time something's wrong with your car, just drive it more, because that'll fix it, right? Because if it's broken or something's not working right, just driving it more will fix it. That's the mindset that you're going under. And people will say, well, you just need to exercise with really good technique, and that'll clear everything up. And okay, so put a Formula One race driver in your car. Next time it's broken, put a Formula One race driver in your car. There's not going to be any better driving technique on the planet. It's probably still not going to fix the car.
Right. They'll pull performance out of it. Like, they'll drive it better than you can.
But it'll still be broken, and it'll still break down and end up in a heap. So just take a second. Let's straighten the wheels and make sure that valve is unstuck in the engine. And now you're going to see some really good driving, and you're going to be able to get from point A to point B. It's not it's as Rob Butler has always said, it's not everything, it's not nothing. Like, this is just move well enough so that you can adapt in a positive fashion to your training. Then you still got to have good technique. You still got to be well programmed. You still need to watch your lifestyle. Like, this is it's just a baseline. And
still have to move enough weight that it actually will make a change.
Right. And then getting strong adds this layer of benefit and resiliency, to your point earlier, that's really makes a difference for folks.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, Brett, I love everything that you do. So, just out of curiosity, going back to that cert you did in February of 2002, that very first kettlebell cert, any other people that were in that cert that have since become prolific riders like yourself, or saw it and were like, this is the future?
We had that was an interesting group. So the first workshop, Pavel did 11 people. The second one that I was at was 22 people. And there was a wide variety of folks there. And a gentleman named Tom Furman, who offers some online training and lives in the Florida area. He's out there and does his physical strategies stuff and does some really good stuff. A lot of the early senior instructors and lead instructors within the old RKC program came out of that workshop. So that there were a variety of folks. I'm actually the only one that's still with Pavel after all those years, and other people went different directions with their own either workshops or certifications or things of that nature. And yeah.
Well, hey, it's like I don't know, you probably hate the Philadelphia Eagles, right?
You know what? I live in Pittsburgh, so I kind of just by zip code, I have to like the Steelers.
Right. But if you look at, he's with the Chiefs now, Andy Reid. If you look at, I think 50% of the coaches, if you include him, 25% of all the coaches, head coaches in the NFL, either came up under him or are him, right? So literally, there's a connection. 25 head coaches in the NFL are from one gentleman, Andy Reid, right? And if you look at that first class of, or that second class you took of the kettlebell cert, like, from that seed in the ground, we built a tree. Now that tree has, gone on to plant other seeds, but like, it all started there. So definitely might call it something else. And it's like, well, we know the roots.
Yeah. And that's been, my mindset in staying with Pavel all these years and working with him is, just been that he's been the source of a tremendous amount of information, and is one of the smartest guys in the industry that I'm aware of,
Yeah.
and has a tremendous knowledge and background. And same thing with Gray. Gray has this incredible body of knowledge and ability to create and synthesize information. So I've been incredibly fortunate in my mentors, and incredibly fortunate in some of the decisions that I've made to just be there.
Yeah.
And that's, you never
You also
know.
strike me as an incredibly stable guy. And those two nut jobs, you probably offer some stability. They're it's yin yang, right?
Yeah, well, you got to have that.
Yeah.
You
I
got
look
to.
at the relationship between Gray and Greg Rose, and it's like you have an engineer that wants it like exactly like this, bang, 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 bang. And you have another guy that's like, do you know where the word engineer comes from? It's an old Latin. like, shut up! I just want the system to work. What do you mean by system? Like,
Definitely.
but it
Yeah,
works perfectly. Like it works perfectly. So
definitely. What shakes out is usually very, very good. And I've just been incredibly fortunate to
yeah,
have these opportunities to work with these folks and to be given these opportunities in my life. And so it's been quite the trip.
that's awesome. Well, I hate to cut this off because I feel like we could go for a few more hours here, Brett. But I do appreciate the time today. I asked you your biggest aha, but if there was one tip, I mean, looking back on the years and the mentors and all that, if there's one tip that you could give people, so they most likely have a clinic and they're looking to add fitness, both as an idea of rehab, like an idea to get to strength, and as a business model and as a offering, um, what advice would you give them?
No pressure. I think it's maybe a different direction. It's what do you want the culture of that place to be?
Interesting.
Because if you can identify your culture,
Mm-hmm.
then you will find the people that will be attracted to it. So knowing your identity, opening up a facility, especially in call it a post-rehab situation.
Mm-hmm.
Opening a facility is not as simple as putting some equipment in a room and opening the doors. You're going to be
Many have
providing
tried. There's a trail of tears along that pathway, right?
100%. And when you look at successful personal training studios or successful group exercise studios or studios that offer both, there's a culture within that group, and usually driven by the lead person,
Mm-hmm.
whoever's in charge of that thing.
Sure.
And their personality attracts people that like that, and they may not even be doing the best stuff. They may not be teaching the best technique, but they're incredibly successful because people like them and they want to be there learning from them, even if it's not the best stuff, because there's this culture and there's this environment they want to be in. And so in a post-rehab situation, you're taking people who are perhaps going to be afraid to exercise and afraid to move. You need to create an environment that is motivating and positive and protective and gets people towards their goals. And so the equipment, the what comes behind the why.
Mm-hmm.
And so the why behind your decision to open up a post-rehab or a fitness facility based on this, that's going to be important. And a friend of mine who has one of our Strong First accredited gyms in the Baltimore area, he's very open about the fact that we are not a physique-based gym. If you have a physique-based goal, I recommend you go someplace else. We build strength. And so the identity, the message, Seth Godin wrote a book a while back called Tribes, and really identifying your tribe and being able to identify that culture and create that situation that people want to be in. I tell people that I teach and work with all the time, meet people where they are, and you'll be surprised where you can take them. Some trainers and some people out there want to be aspirational. So they want to put out this image that people would want to aspire to achieve. I don't, I don't like that, and B, I don't do that. I will meet you where you are. And then my job from there is to guide you where you want to be, or where I think you, the things you need to do and the thing you want to do. So perhaps a different answer than you were expecting, but I think that what I've seen over the years in successful studios, in successful situations, is really nailing your culture and your why first, and then people will be attracted to that.
I love it. That was a great answer. I interviewed another guy at the very beginning of my podcast long ago, and he said his dad would always ask him a specific question that he's carried is, what do we want to have happen here?
Yeah.
And it's the same with the culture thing. Like, what do you want to have happen? Like, what are the people you want? What is that tribe you want to develop? Because you're going to develop it. Like, I think that's a part of business that's often forgotten. You will develop a culture. It might just be shitty. Like, it might not be fun, or it might be incredibly. I've been in gyms, like you're saying. Like, I was visiting an area, went in a gym, and you could tell that the idea there was aesthetics. Like, and I didn't fit in with my regular t-shirt and shorts, and it's like, and it wasn't comfortable. And now I'm sure for people who were aesthetically driven, it was very comfortable, but you're going to develop a culture. So make sure it's the one that you truly want,
Definitely.
and be willing to yell it from the mountaintops. Right. Anyways,
there's a popular chain nowadays.
Uh-huh.
I won't mention the name, but it's a popular chain. They had a great commercial a while back about, I pick things up and put them down. I pick things up and put them down.
Yeah.
And it's a target of some not so positive comments within the general fitness world, because they have a pizza day and a donut day, and they do these things that we think are not part of a fitness situation.
They don't have huge dumbbells in their weight area and stuff. Like,
so a friend of mine was visiting from Budapest, and in the LA area. And he's like, hey, I'm going to go in, I'm going to see what this is all about. So it's like 3:00 on a Wednesday during the summer. Okay. Late summer, 2:30, 3:00 in the afternoon. There's about 6 salespeople signing people up for memberships. They're all with someone, and they all have 3 to 5 people waiting to sign up.
Holy shit.
So while to most of us fairly serious strength and fitness people, we look at that situation and we go, oh, that's awful. That organization has identified a culture and a thing that actually appeals to a lot of people, and they're being fairly successful. Now, big box gym is a whole other business reality, and there's a whole thing there. But they have a culture, and they're very upfront about their culture. And so identifying that early and being able to use that to build your community and your culture and business is a good thing.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. Great advice. I now that you're saying that, I can think of 3 or 4 different stories I've heard over the last few years where people have a group of customers that are non-stereotypical,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you look at, I mentioned Greg Rose, like back when he was working with golfers in 1996 and stuff, nobody worked with freaking, old, pale white guys who are overweight working as attorneys. Like, come on, like, we're going to have the greatest workout of your life. And like that, nobody's going after that. Right.
Yep.
And back in the day when Jane Fonda started her crazy classes, like nobody was doing that stuff. And then it became the thing, but.
Well, group exercise.
Zumba is wildly successful and doesn't fit my model of fitness, but I'm not filling stadiums with classes of people like they are.
Exactly. And group exercise has this, it's been a driving force in fitness for a long time. Before there was personal training, there was group exercise. Mm-hmm. And so that has been a driving force because people crave this community aspect and this reinforcing aspect to what they do.
And on the business side, I think people crave that engagement now more than ever, because we live these isolated, I'm staring at my phone in this bubble. And if I'm at lunch with a friend, let's say that you and I go to lunch together, you're staring at your phone, I'm staring at my phone, I'm isolating. But when you see them, and sometimes it takes like 10 or 12 minutes for this to happen in a group exercise class, when you see them break out of that isolation shell and high five somebody for the first time or cheer or do something different, you see them return almost like returning to their humanness. And they're like, oh my God, this is awesome. And so from a business perspective, today more than ever, people want to be more cultish because it's the only place they feel like they truly get engaged.
We could do a whole other podcast peeling back the layers on that sort of interaction. I'll tell you two things that as a presenter, but also just as somebody out there in the world interacting with people.
Yeah.
You want to start seeing some different interaction with people. Make eye contact. Smile. If you will do that, I do this all the time. I do it in particular in airports, because the person behind the counter or the person you're talking to at the hotel, or not the hotel, but the airport restaurant, whatever the situation may be, the TSA agent, I mean, whoever it is, when you make eye contact and smile, I have seen reactions from people that that's the first time that's happened today. It's the first time that's happened today, and that's sad.
Yeah.
Cheers had it right. You want to go where everybody knows your name. And so those sorts of situations and God, I went all Bill Clinton hand on you. I started, you can't, folks listening can't see this, but I actually started
it's
with
the almost thumbs up. It's not a full thumbs up.
Exactly.
It's the almost thumbs up.
That was interesting. But just start doing that. Make eye contact. I'll be at the grocery store, and whoever bags my groceries, if it's not me, I make it a point to make sure that person makes eye contact with me and thank them. Mm-hmm. Like these little things make huge differences. And in building a business, they can be everything. And that can be a huge part of setting that culture and being that engaging and place where people know they're cared for.
Yeah. My friend is a chiropractor, and he has a little, his office is kind of long and skinny. And so they have walkie-talkies that all the doctors wear with a little earpiece. And so his front desk person will be like, after they check in and the person's walking down the hall, he'll be like, Brett Jones, red shirt, Brett Jones. And so whoever's next to encounter him goes, oh, hey, Brett, how's it going? Or Mr. Jones, nice to see you again. And shakes their hand. And he said they did it. And after 4 weeks, they were like, hey, how's it going? And everybody's like, I don't know if we should do it, man, because everybody wants to stop and talk to us. He's like, exactly. Like, isn't that you want the relationship like you want? But people are so, and he says they're like shocked and blown away. And you don't want to tell them like, I'm hearing it in my ear, but you go up to somebody on their second visit. It's like, hey, Brett, it's nice to see you again. Thanks a lot for coming in. And, yeah, thanks, Doc. And I appreciate you guys having me back. Like, here they are paying for the visit. They're in pain, and they're like, thank you for letting me come back in, and it's just because they made eye contact, shook their hand, used their name. And it's like, it's diabolical. Like,
yeah.
It's cheating almost, but everybody wins. Everybody wins.
And just that simple, which I like, simple, not easy. Right. Yeah. Because, I don't have a great memory for names. But I have a great memory for faces. And so over the years, I've tried to do the math. I'm probably 300 plus workshops in over the 15, 16 years that I've been traveling and teaching. And I'll have people that will be like, oh, I was at your workshop in 2005. And I'm like, that was 13 years ago. I'm sorry, but I don't remember your name.
187 workshops of people ago. Like
exactly. But obviously there was some engagement there that led them to remember. And just those brief moments, they're arguably two great politicians, regardless of whether you agree with them or not. regardless of whether you like them or not.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Clinton, Arnold Schwarzenegger. They were both famous for remembering people's names. And not only that, but hey, the last time I saw you, your mom, she had sprained her ankle. How's her ankle? Like that. That's why they got votes. And that's why people like them, because they're like, he remembered me.
Right.
And he remembered what was going on with my mom.
Yeah.
So but start with eye contact and smiling.
I'll tell you a quick story before, when you said Bill Clinton, I had a patient, and his next door neighbor, I'm in Las Vegas. And so it's a really small community, in the fact of like, it's just, there's too many people, but 2 million people, but there's no town that abuts us. So this is it. Right.
Yeah.
And so there was a big fundraiser when Bill Clinton was running for his second term, I think. And my patient lived in the same neighborhood as a congressman from our town, right? I mean, it's just, they're neighbors, right? It's a nicer country club area. But anyway, so Bill Clinton's having a fundraiser at the congressman's house, and then they go to leave, and he's the president at this point, right? So all the Suburbans, start up and they're driving away. And my patient is just walking his dogs at night, taking them out for their last go round before. And he says he's walking his dogs, and you can see it's like they got the lights inside. They're not the flashing lights. There's no sirens going, but all of a sudden, like 6 Suburbans stop, and out hop these guys, and they're walking towards him. And he's like, "Hey, I'm just walking my dogs here. It's cool, right?" And all of a sudden, Bill Clinton, President Clinton at the time, runs up and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm President Clinton. I haven't met you. I didn't meet you tonight." Like, he knew everybody he had met. And in the headlights at night, he's looking at this guy going, "Yeah, I didn't meet that dude. I better go shake his hand." And he got out and shook his hand. And he's like, my patient's like, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. President." Like, switching the leash from the right hand to the left to shake his hand. And he's like, "All right, well, you have a good night. Okay." And it was like, in Bill Clinton's mind, it was bothering him that he hadn't met one individual on his way out. He's probably late for a flight on Air Force One. It's like,
right.
"Hey, stop the motorcade. I got to shake that hand."
Yeah. I didn't get to meet that guy. And that's and wrapping this back into the culture conversation, like that strategy, these people are trusting you with their pain. They're trusting you with their health. That simple little bit of engagement goes miles. And then you have a culture that says, "I'm where everybody knows my name."
Yeah.
And those are really successful strategies.
As a what do you call it? Footnote. That patient of mine, staunch Republican, and he said, I voted for him that year.
It's amazing the impact, and to your point of the social media driven lives, and the disconnected interconnectedness that we now share via all of these modalities, mediums, I should say. It is amazing the power of
humanness.
Humanness. Yeah. High five, smile.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered all our bases here, Brett. I can't imagine some other subject we need to get into.
Well, if we do, it'll be a 5-hour podcast, so we should probably schedule for another one.
I want to thank Brett Roll Tape Jones today for this podcast. Thank God this is digital.
That's right.
And, we can just keep going. But if people want to reach out to you and find out about what you're doing, what you're teaching, workshops and all that, where can they find you?
So strongfirst.com, the forum there, appliedstrength.com is my own website. Obviously, I put articles and information up on functionalmovement.com. So those 3 channels.
And if anybody's interested in that upcoming kettlebell, Strong First, FMS combo, what's the story there?
So functionalmovements.com. It's in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta. So it's the weekend of, let me make sure I get my dates right here. It is the 16th, 17th, 18th of November. So if you get on, if you get on the website and look for the event list, you'll see November 16 to 18, Duluth, Georgia.
All right. And there'll be more next year as well, you think?
We'll see. We're looking at maybe changing a couple things. So more than likely, yes, but we shall see.
All right. So sign up for this one. You never know.
It might be the last one.
All right. Well, great. Well, Brett, thank you very much for the time today. I appreciate it. And for those listeners, man, this is the guy to follow. He's obviously, as you can hear in this interview, he's got a ton of wisdom. So
thank you, sir. It's great to have the chance.
Yeah, man. Well, on behalf of Brett Jones, this is Dr. Josh Satterlee saying, go out there, maximize your license, and live the life you dream of. Thanks again, Brett. Hey, how about that? Another great interview here on Clinic Gym Radio. Listen, if you're serious about starting up your own Clinic Gym Hybrid, then please go to clinicgymhybrid.com and check out our website there. We also love to get you involved in our accelerator program, which will walk you through step-by-step the 42 pieces you need to start your own Clinic Gym Hybrid. I'm Dr. Josh Satterlee. We'll talk to you later.